Hey, high school grad, still alive, huh? I thought you might have dropped dead somewhere.
Yeah, sorry to disappoint. I'm still kicking. You haven't changed either, I see. I chuckled, and Mike got all worked up and shot back.
A high school grad like you has no right to laugh at me. I'm an esteemed employee at Maverick Bank, you know.
Oh, really? That's impressive. Mike lifted his chin slightly, wearing a proud expression.
I'm on a whole different level from a high school grad loser like you. Do you even have an account at Maverick Bank?
Yeah, I do.
It's probably just peanuts. You're just a hassle for us employees. Close your account already. High school grads like you are always going to be poor.
To Mike, it seems that being a high school grad equals being poor. Is that so? Well, if you insist, I could close my account for you. Are you sure about that?
Of course I am. Whether you close your account or not, Maverick Bank couldn't care less.
Mike laughed heartily as he said that. The next day, after the meeting ended, I checked my phone and saw several missed calls from an unknown number. The same number was calling again.
Hey, Chris, what's going on?
My name is Chris Miller. I'm 47 years old and still single. I've been so absorbed in work that I haven't even thought about dating. The reason I've been so focused on work goes back to my childhood struggles. When I was a kid, my father was a bank employee with a decent income, so my mother was a stay-at-home mom. My sister and I lived a comfortable life where, if we wanted to take lessons, our parents would enroll us. And if we wanted to eat barbecue, they'd take us to a restaurant without hesitation. But just after I finished my high school college exams, my father died in an accident. It was a sudden and shocking event. My mother was devastated, and I don't remember much from that time, but I'm sure I was in a daze. Our life changed completely after that. My father had left us some money, but my mother was at a loss, having to take care of two kids. At my mother's strong encouragement, I enrolled in a prestigious college. However, seeing my mother work tirelessly without even taking time to sleep, I decided to skip college and start working instead. When I told my mother about my decision, she cried her heart out.
Why does it have to be this way?
But looking back, I believe my decision was the right one. I became the breadwinner of the family and studied management with all my might. The president of the company I joined was highly skilled in management, and under his guidance, I gained various experiences, eventually starting my own company in my mid-20s. As a result, I was able to ease my mother's burden and send my sister to college. From the outside, it might look like I sacrificed myself, but I don't see it that way. I got to experience the world a little earlier than my peers and started my business a little earlier too. I'm confident in the life I've built. One busy day, I got a call from my mother back home. She said I'd received an invitation to a middle school reunion. The organizer from my middle school must be a really diligent guy. Starting with our 21st birthday, they've been organizing reunions every 10 years. But I've never attended even one. I couldn't even be bothered to send a reply card and ask my mom to leave it alone. After that, we chatted briefly before ending the call.
Don't you want to see your old friends?
My mother asked, but I don't have any good memories from my middle school days. The only person I could call a friend from that time is Matt. He's been my buddy since we were kids, playing together since kindergarten. I still keep in touch with Matt, and we sometimes go out for drinks together. But there's no one else I really want to see, and there are more people from middle school that I'd rather avoid. Since I attended a public middle school, We were joined by students from other elementary schools when we moved up. Among them was a student who stood out more than anyone else, a boy named Mike. He came from a different elementary school than I did. On the first day, he had 3 classmates following him like his lackeys, and he started making a big speech while sitting on top of his desk.
My name is Mike Taylor. I'm the heir to the famous Taylor family. From today on, my word is law. Got it? Anyone who doesn't listen to me will regret it.
To me, Matt, and the other kids from my elementary school, we just thought, what's this guy talking about? But it turns out he was really a monster. The Taylor family was indeed well known locally. They were historically the landowners in the area, owning large tracts of land and running various businesses, amassing a huge fortune. They also had significant influence in local politics. Maybe it was because of this background, but Mike always craved attention and had to be the center of everything. If anyone stood out more than him or dared to challenge him, he'd boast, "I'll tell my dad, and he'll make sure your parents can't work anymore." And he meant it. There was even a classmate whose father lost his job and had to move out of state after defying Mike. If Mike's father couldn't directly affect someone's job, Mike would resort to nasty harassment. To avoid provoking him, Matt and I took a neutral stance, neither agreeing nor disagreeing with him. But one day, Matt, unable to stand it any longer, spoke up. He caught Mike trying to drag an unwilling female classmate away after school.
Hey, Mike, cut it out. She doesn't want to go with you.
Huh? Who do you think you are? You've got some nerve trying to tell me what to do.
Mike's attention shifted to Matt, and his grip on the girl loosened, allowing her to escape.
Oh man, she got away. What are you gonna do about it?
Nothing, really.
What? You little punk.
Knowing Matt's strong sense of justice, I had a feeling something like this would happen eventually. But watching it unfold, I was anxious. In a TV drama, this might be where a fight breaks out. But Mike, while smart, wasn't physically strong.
You'll pay for this. Just wait and see.
Unable to win in a fight, Mike left with his lackeys in tow. But the real trouble started the next day. Mike began a campaign of harassment against Matt. His indoor shoes were hidden, his gym clothes disappeared, and his textbooks were defaced. It was obviously Mike's doing, but there was no solid proof. At first, Matt was clearly rattled, but once he was sure it was Mike's doing, he just shrugged it off like it was nothing new. This seemed to bore Mike, so he ordered the entire class to ignore Matt. By that time, everyone in the class had realized that crossing Mike would only lead to trouble, so they obediently followed his orders. But I thought it was ridiculous and continued to interact with Matt as usual. This didn't sit well with Mike, and he turned his attention to me next. Just like with Matt, my indoor shoes went missing, my gym clothes disappeared, and my textbooks were defaced.
Sorry, I didn't mean to drag you into this.
Don't worry about it. I don't like Mike either.
Of course, things got so out of hand that Matt and I eventually talked to our homeroom teacher about it. The teacher tried to investigate Mike's harassment, but at the time, Mike's father was the president of the PTA, and the investigation was quietly dropped. In the end, their petty harassment continued until we graduated from middle school. After that, Mike was accepted into the same prestigious high school I went to. I couldn't believe I'd have to attend the same school as him again. But in high school, being the son of a local big shot didn't carry the same weight as it did in middle school, and his influence dwindled. The fact that his lackeys went to other high schools probably played a big part in that. Still, whenever he saw me, he tried to pick a fight.
Oh, Chris, is that you? So you made it into this high school too. Not bad for someone like you. Want me to be your friend?
Huh? No thanks.
What did you say? I'm offering to be your friend, and you have the nerve to turn me down? You're just as annoying as ever.
At the time, I didn't have the luxury to deal with Mike's antics. After school, I'd go straight to my part-time job to help support my family. However, about 6 months later, when my mother fell ill, I decided to forego college and start working instead. In a way, I thought I had escaped from Mike as well. But I was wrong. Mike's persistence didn't change even as we grew older. Around 30 years have passed since then, and now I'm 47 years old. Even though I received an invitation to the reunion, I didn't think it had anything to do with me. But after my mother's recent call, I also got a message from Matt about the reunion.
Hey Chris, long time no see. Did you get the reunion invite?
Oh, Matt. Yeah, it's been a while. I heard from my mom that it arrived at home.
Mr. Thompson is supposed to attend this time too. You're going, right?
Mr. Thompson was our homeroom teacher in the 3rd year of middle school. This year, Mr. Thompson is turning 70. So the reunion was also organized as a celebration of his milestone birthday. Mr. Thompson was the one who questioned the school's policy of avoiding conflict and did his best to protect Matt and me from Mike and his gang. Although he couldn't beat the larger institution of the school, he was a teacher who supported and encouraged us. He was also there for me when I was devastated by my father's death. Having Mr. Thompson in my life gave me the strength to work hard and push forward in my life. However, I hadn't seen him since we graduated from middle school. I don't want to see Mike and the others, but I do want to thank Mr. Thompson. I wasn't planning to go, but if that's the case, maybe I'll drop by at the beginning. Since Matt was going too, I decided to attend the reunion to offer my congratulations and thanks to our teacher. On the day of the reunion, there was an unusually large turnout, as it also doubled as a celebration for our homeroom teacher's milestone. The event was held at the banquet hall of the only hotel in town, right by the station. I met up with Matt at the station, and we walked to the hotel together. It had been a year since I last saw Matt, partly because I'd been busy with work. After checking in, we entered the banquet hall, and the first thing that caught my eye was Mike, making a big scene as usual. Has Mike always been like that, even at this age?
Yeah, he hasn't changed at all. He works at Maverick Bank now, but he's known for being rude to customers.
Matt still lived with his family after getting married, so he was well informed about the local situation. So, he's at Maverick Bank. As we were chatting, Mike noticed us.
Oh, look who's here. I haven't seen Chris since he graduated from high school.
Mike made sure to say it loudly on purpose. Some things never change. He and his old middle school cronies started walking toward us, grinning.
Hey, high school grad, still alive, huh? I thought you might have dropped dead somewhere.
Mike shouted that out loudly, and his lackeys burst into obnoxious laughter. Yeah, sorry to disappoint. I'm doing fine. You haven't changed either. I sneered, and Mike, clearly annoyed, shot back.
A high school grad like you has no right to laugh at me. I'm an esteemed employee at Maverick Bank, you know.
Oh, really? That's impressive. Mike lifted his chin slightly, wearing a proud expression.
I'm on a whole different level from a high school grad loser like you. Do you even have an account at Maverick Bank?
Yeah, I do.
It's probably just peanuts anyway. All it does is waste our time. Close your account already. High school grads like you will always be poor.
To Mike, it seems that being a high school grad equals being poor. Is that so? Well, if you insist, I could close my account for you. Are you sure about that?
Of course I am. Whether you close your account or not, Maverick Bank couldn't care less.
Mike laughed heartily as he said that. But the other alumni were watching him from a distance. It was just like in middle school. Fed up with the scene, I greeted Mr. Thompson and left the reunion. As I waited for the elevator to take me down to the hotel lobby, I heard his voice from behind me. It was Mike.
Oh, look who it is, Chris. Heading home already? Isn't it a bit early? Oh, right. I guess a high school graduate can't keep up with the conversation.
Not again. I was utterly exhausted by this point. Mike had apparently been in the restroom and was now making a big scene, holding the banquet hall door open and shouting. I pretended not to notice him, but I knew all too well that he wasn't the type to let something like that slide.
Ignoring me, Chris? You couldn't go to college because your family was too poor, right?
Mike said this as loudly as he could. I didn't fail to go to college. I chose not to.
That's just a way of spinning it. Either way, you're still a loser. A high school grad like you must not have much of a life. Serves you right.
I could hear people talking inside the hall.
Chris was really smart, wasn't he? It's a shame he only graduated from high school.
I didn't know he was just a high school grad.
Mike flashed a sneering grin at me, and after one last loud laugh, he went back into the hall, seemingly satisfied. The next day, after a meeting, I checked my phone and saw several missed calls from an unknown number. Thinking it might be a wrong number, I was about to ignore it when the same number called again. As soon as I answered, I recognized the voice immediately. It was the last voice I ever wanted to hear. It was Mike. I have no idea how he got my number, but he was practically shouting on the other end of the line.
Hey, Chris, what's going on? I just saw the newspaper. Are you really the president of Supreme Ventures Group?
Mike was more excited than I'd ever heard him. Yeah, that's right. So what?
You've got to be kidding me. How did someone like you get to be so important?
Mike was clearly shaken.
Are you really the president of Supreme Ventures Group? Since when? What's the deal?
Apparently, the newspaper article featured my name and photo as the president of Supreme Ventures Group. Mike, in disbelief, had called to confirm. Looks like Matt jumped the gun with that article. The truth is, Matt works as a journalist for an economic newspaper. After I left the reunion yesterday, I went out for drinks with Matt, and we talked about how Mike had told me to close my account. We were actually in the middle of a meeting about moving the group's corporate accounts. But Mike saw things differently.
What kind of shady stuff did you do to get where you are?
That's pretty rude. I just grew my company through hard work.
No way you're more successful than me. It's impossible for you to be more important than I am.
Mike couldn't hide his irritation that someone he once looked down on had surpassed him. But that wasn't my concern. By the way, I'm heading over to close my account at Maverick Bank, just like you said. Make sure everything's ready.
Yeah, go ahead and close it.
Mike was so focused on the fact that I was now a president that he didn't seem to have fully read the article. But I didn't really care about that. When I arrived at the Maverick Bank Branch 10, the place was buzzing. Everyone must have seen the newspaper article this morning. The staff were whispering to each other like a game of telephone. And eventually, one of them disappeared into a back room. I looked around the bank and spotted Mike, then walked over to him. He seemed completely out of touch with the mood around him.
Oh, Chris, here to close out that pathetic little account of yours, huh? You were bragging about being a president, but it looks like you're not making any money. Guess you're not much after all.
Yeah, I'm here to move the $230 million I've deposited at your bank to another one, just as you suggested. No complaints, right? After all, my tiny deposit was just causing you trouble, wasn't it? This should make your job a lot easier. You're lucky to have such a considerate classmate.
What? $230 million? But your account only had a few $100.
Oh, you must be talking about that old personal account I used for payroll when I first started working. Yeah, I guess I did leave that one untouched for a while. Sure, I used it for living expenses, so there's not much left. I'll close that one too. With that, I handed Mike a copy of this morning's financial newspaper.
The funds from Supreme Ventures Group's corporate accounts will be fully transferred to Summit Bank, and the accounts at Maverick Bank will be closed. This is expected to result in significant losses for Maverick Bank, potentially leading to difficulties in maintaining operations, and could even result in a merger with Summit Bank. What the hell is this?
Mike read aloud from the front page scoop of this morning's financial newspaper.
Chris, stop lying. There's no way you have that kind of money. Your company's probably a small-time operation. Don't try to act all high and mighty.
Even now, Mike refused to acknowledge me. Just then, the branch manager and the head of the bank walked out from the back, deeply apologizing.
Mr. Miller, we are always grateful for your business. Could you please explain the article in this morning's financial newspaper?
Mr. Miller, has our bank caused you any inconvenience?
They bombarded me with questions. I decided to tell them the truth. Well, your employee here, Mike, advised me to close my account because it was just causing trouble. So, I've decided to follow his advice and close it. Both of them simultaneously glared at Mike.
Mike, what have you done?
No, I wasn't suggesting he close the corporate accounts, just his personal one.
Mike tried desperately to explain.
What? An employee advising a customer to close their account without any reason? What's going on here?
Mike hung his head.
Mr. Miller is one of our most valued clients, someone who has supported our bank. Mike, did you not know that?
Huh? This bank should be fine with my dad's assets. It shouldn't matter if Chris's company pulls out. My dad's a big deal in this town.
Apparently, you're unaware. Your father was indeed a great patron of our bank. However, he recently suffered significant losses in the FX market and is now burdened with debt. To cover those losses, he's had to liquidate quite a bit of his deposits, and I hear he's planning to sell some land soon.
It seemed Mike was completely unaware, his eyes wide with shock.
What? No way.
It's true. Don't you read the financial news, Mike? Just the other day, there was a big article about the Taylor family being on the verge of bankruptcy. Turning back to the branch manager and the head of the bank, I said, "So, I'll be closing all of Supreme Ventures Group's corporate accounts. So please proceed with the necessary steps." Hearing this, both the branch manager and the head of the bank turned pale.
Mr. Miller, if you close your accounts now, our bank won't be able to survive. We sincerely apologize for the rudeness of our employee. Could you please reconsider?
No, as you're aware, our group owns Summit Bank, and we've agreed to consolidate everything there moving forward. Until now, I've trusted you and kept our group's assets at Maverick Bank. But I can't continue to do business with a bank that employs someone like Mike. The decision to close the accounts is final. The branch manager and the head of the bank looked up to the sky in despair. Mike watched the scene with an embarrassed expression on his face. After a brief silence, the head of the bank spoke with determination.
Mr. Miller, we understand. We will prepare to close the corporate accounts and transfer all funds to Summit Bank. We will contact you as soon as the process is ready.
Thank you. I appreciate it. With that, I left Maverick Bank. As I glanced back, I saw Mike being forced by the branch manager to apologize deeply, his expression bitter. Serves him right. A few days later, I received a call from the branch manager that the account closure process was ready, and I returned to Maverick Bank's branch tent. To my surprise, Mike was still working there. Is he getting special treatment because he's the son of a local big shot? And to top it off, Mike himself insisted on handling my account closure. The branch manager was also present, which made me wonder if there was some ulterior motive. My instincts were correct. As I was called into a private room and the account closure process began, Mike leaned in and whispered to me while the branch manager was away fetching the head of the bank.
Hey, Chris, cancel this account closure.
Huh? You're the one who told me to close it. I'm just following your orders.
I'm telling you to cancel it now. That was obviously a joke. You need to save my reputation.
I was utterly infuriated that even at this point, Mike was still trying to manipulate people.
If I can get you to cancel the closure, I won't face any consequences. Just help me out.
No.
You arrogant jerk. You think you can get away with this?
Just as Mike was about to grab my collar, the head of the bank and the branch manager walked in.
Mike, what are you trying to do to Mr. Miller? I've had a bad feeling about this ever since you insisted on handling this closure yourself. So this was your plan all along?
No, that's not what I meant.
Mike stammered. It turns out that Mike had requested to handle the closure personally, claiming he could persuade me to cancel it. The branch manager had given him a chance. But now it was clear what Mike's real intentions were.
That's enough, Mike. Step aside. The branch manager and I will handle the rest of the process. You'll be informed about your disciplinary action later. In the meantime, you're suspended.
But, sir, my father has always supported this bank. You can't do this to me.
Yes, your father was a great supporter of this bank, but that was your father, not you. Your attitude and performance will be reviewed as well, so be prepared.
The branch manager's tone was icy. Mike, who had always been given leniency as the son of a local big shot, was now facing the consequences due to his father's diminished influence and the significant loss he had caused the bank.
Mr. Miller, the account closure process is complete. The full $230 million has been transferred to Summit Bank. We sincerely appreciate your business and are deeply grateful for your trust in us. Should you ever wish to open an account with us again, we would be honored to serve you.
The head of the bank, though clearly distressed, handled the situation with professionalism. I had always trusted him for his respectful approach, so it was disappointing to see things end this way. I later learned more about Mike's fate through Matt. When it became clear that Mike's reckless behavior had caused significant losses for the bank, his colleagues and subordinates unleashed their pent-up frustrations. It turned out that Mike had been using his father's name to intimidate them, just as he had done in middle school. Mike was seen as a capable employee by his superiors, but that reputation was built on stealing clients from his colleagues and subordinates. He had threatened them, saying, "If you snitch on me, I'll make sure you can't work at this bank anymore."
Mike, I'm disappointed in you. Your demotion and pay cut are confirmed.
What? Why am I being demoted? I'm meant to be in charge.
Stop acting like a big shot. You don't have what it takes to lead others. Start by taking a good look at yourself.
Despite the branch manager's words, they seemed to go in one ear and out the other. It might be too late for Mike to change his ways after living like this for so long, but his pride wouldn't let him accept the demotion. He resigned from Maverick Bank without thinking about the consequences. Around the same time, Mike's scandal came to light. He had been brazenly having an affair with the branch manager's wife. She was a former classmate of ours and also Mike's ex-girlfriend. They were quite similar in temperament, making them a fitting pair in some ways. Apparently, Mike and the branch manager's wife rekindled their relationship at a reunion when they were both 40. The branch manager, noticing his wife's strange behavior, hired a private investigator who confirmed the affair. When he found out that the other person was Mike, he was stunned. When the branch manager informed Mike of his demotion, he confronted Mike with the evidence and demanded compensation. As a result, it's said that Mike resigned from his job and attempted to flee. The branch manager divorced his wife and sent both his ex-wife and Mike a formal notice demanding compensation. Even if Mike tried to run away, everyone knew where his family lived. There was no escaping. At 30, Mike had an arranged marriage with a wealthy woman. But when she discovered his affair, she divorced him, demanded a large settlement, and left. As the Taylor family's influence waned, even the friends who had followed Mike since elementary school scattered like spiders, abandoning him. Mike turned to his father for help with the hefty alimony payments. But his father, having already lost most of his wealth, was in no position to offer any assistance. Realizing he couldn't rely on his father anymore, Mike tried to find another job. But his bad reputation had already spread far and wide, and no company was willing to hire him, no matter how many interviews he attended. With no other options, Mike took on massive debt to pay off the settlements and now scrapes by, working at a convenience store during the day and as a security guard at night. But with his personality, it was no surprise. He couldn't hold down any job for long and kept bouncing from one to another. One day, Matt walked into a convenience store and spotted Mike behind the counter. He immediately recognized him and was taken aback, but he was in a hurry and decided to make his purchase there. However, Mike was completely sullen at the register, offering no courtesy or service. When Mike realized it was Matt, he made an outrageous demand.
"Oh, it's Matt. That'll be an extra $10.
Huh? Extra for what?
A tip for me."
That makes no sense.
Asking for a tip that much at a convenience store was unheard of. Matt thought it was a joke, but then Mike started scanning random items near the register, adding an imaginary $10 to the total.
"That'll be $25, tip included."
Knock it off.
"You're causing trouble, sir."
As they argued, the store manager came over. Matt protested to the manager. It was obvious that the items on the receipt didn't match what he had purchased, making Mike's wrongdoing clear as day. Shortly after, Mike was fired. He had no one to blame but himself. As for me, business was booming. Supreme Ventures Group continued to grow, and we posted a profit this fiscal year. The new banking venture was also getting on track. with the Taylor family and Supreme Ventures Group, two major clients, closing their accounts in quick succession. Maverick Bank's credibility plummeted, its momentum stalled, and it fell into a financial crisis. As a result, the head of Maverick Bank decided to proceed with a merger with Summit Bank. Ironically, the situation unfolded just as Matt's early article had predicted. However, thanks to my recommendation, the former head of Maverick Bank was appointed as the head of the newly formed Summit Maverick Bank. With his exceptional leadership and management skills, Summit Maverick Bank was aiming even higher. The branch manager and the rest of the staff, except for Mike, continued to work at the newly rebranded Summit Maverick Bank's Branch 10. I found myself recalling the words of Mr. Thompson, whom we had met again at the reunion. Mr. Thompson had arrived just before the reunion began, so Matt and I, not planning to stay long, went to congratulate him on his 70th birthday and thank him for his support during our middle school years right after the toast. At that moment, Mr. Thompson remembered both Matt and me very well, and when we called his name, he greeted us with open arms.
Chris and Matt, how have you been?
That alone was touching. But then Mr. Thompson, hugging us both, said,
You've both grown into such fine men. I'm sorry I couldn't resolve things for you back then. It's something I regret in my teaching career. But seeing how strong and successful you've become, I'm truly grateful.
We had come to thank him, but instead, he thanked us. Amazingly, Mr. Thompson continued to think about us even after we graduated, saving clippings of the interview I gave as president for a business magazine and the articles Matt had written. Matt, I'm thinking about expanding overseas soon.
Oh, finally?
Matt pulled out a notepad, ready to jot down details. Hey, no early articles this time. It's still just a concept.
Got it, but it's hard to resist.
We both laughed. We swore to live our lives without regret, just as Mr. Thompson had encouraged us to do.